Hello and welcome back to Let's Cook It. This is Ed. As promised, here is video number 2 for Friday, April 8th. And the recipe that I'm going to be making, I found in the Crock-Pot cookbook, is called Spicy Pork Chops and Cabbage. Now, I don't necessarily know what makes these pork chops and cabbage spicy because there's nothing really hot in there. It does use 1 bay leaf and some cloves. I didn't want to mess with the cloves because I think they're a little bit too strong. So what I got was just a little bottle of whole allspice. We're going to use that instead because that can be used in place of cloves. And if you know what allspice smells like, it does have a really strong clove flavor. All right, so the recipe calls for 4 cups of coarsely shredded cabbage. I just got 1 large head, chopped it up, and I'm going to put that in the crock pot. And as you know, cabbage does cook down a little bit because there is a little bit of water in it. It's going to have 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar, a 1/4 cup of sugar, a cup of water, and 2 teaspoons of salt. And this recipe called for 4 to 8 pork chops, but I didn't like the pork chops, what I saw of them at the store today. So I got 8 boneless ribs, and I think that's going to work just as well. I like ribs too, and I think what's the difference? It's all pork. All right, so I do have the crock pot sprayed with a nonstick spray. So what you're going to do, also if it looks like not all the cabbage is going to fit, I'll just not use all of it right now, and I'll use it for something else. I can just cook it separate in some chicken broth and some butter and just eat it plain. All right, so we're going to put the camera down here on the crock pot. All right, so I'm just going to put the cabbage in here. Maybe put just a little bit more on there because I do want to leave room for the boneless ribs there. And of course, Eddie and Nelson are going to start barking. Okay. So you're going to take the cup of water and pour over the cabbage. You're going to take the 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar and just pour that in as well. I've not made this recipe before, so I'm hoping it'll turn out really well. And it doesn't really say to put these ingredients in any sort of order, so I'm just going to put them in. Sprinkle the salt on there, on that cabbage. And the 1/4 cup of sugar. This recipe also calls for apples and a small onion. I didn't have any apples, and I didn't really want to cut these apples up and core them. I didn't want to mess with it. All right, I'm going to step over here and get a spoon so I can stir this up a little bit. All right, I just want to make sure that sugar doesn't stay on the top of the cabbage there, you know, touching those spare ribs or boneless ribs or whatever. All right. Now, what you're going to do with the meat before you put it in the crock pot, you're going to use some kitchen bouquet. It didn't really say how much. It said just brush it on there, which I did. I like kitchen bouquet, so I used a fair amount of it. And I put some ground salt and pepper on top of the meat. And this is just going to go on top of the cabbage. So, and they're pretty thin, so I think it's going to, you know, cook pretty tender. Oh, I about lost my fork. I think you could probably use a pork roast on this. I think that would look or work pretty well too. All right. I know it doesn't look like much now, but you know, I think it's going to turn out pretty well. Now, not all that cabbage fit in the crock pot. I didn't want to crowd it. So I'm just going to put that aside, and I'm going to just cook that cabbage and eat it just like that. All right. So now what you're going to do, put the lid on the crock pot. I'm not going to clamp it down because I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going to be carrying this crock pot. Now it says to cook this on low for 8 to 10 hours or high for 6 to 8. I've started it out on high so we can get it cooking, and then I'm going to turn it down, and I'm probably going to leave it on for at least 8 hours, maybe 6. As I said, these ribs are pretty thin, so I don't think it's going to take very long for those to cook at all. What might take longer is the cabbage that's in the crock pot. All right, so there you have it. Another recipe that came together pretty easily. Not a whole lot of ingredients, and since it is a crock pot, you can just basically set it and forget it, go about your day, do whatever you need to do, come back in a few hours, and then you have something to eat. Now, I might have some kind of potato with this. We'll see. I am not exactly sure. I don't know. I was thinking of maybe some homemade scalloped potatoes. I don't know. We'll see if I can find a really good recipe for those. I haven't made them in a while, but I do think that would be a really good side dish to go with the pork and the cabbage. All right, everybody. It's a short video again, and I hope you liked it. And as I said, in a little bit, or in a few hours, we're going to crack open the crock pot, get some of the cabbage and the pork out of there, and have it maybe with some homemade scalloped potatoes. Come to think of it, that does sound really good. I don't know. Maybe mashed potatoes. We'll see what kind of mood I'm in later. All right, everybody. I am going to actually stop the video because I'm not going to just let the phone sit here on the holder for 8 hours because I've got some other stuff to do. I'm going to upload this as a part 1, and there will be a part 2. So I'm going to go ahead and get this ready, get the kitchen cleaned up, do some other things around the house, and, just let the crock pot do its thing. All right, everybody, I will see you after a while in a few hours, and hopefully you're going to have an awesome day. I hope you do, and take care, everybody, and we'll see you next time here on Let's Cook It. Bye for now.